The Scopes trial, also called the Scopes Monkey trial, took place in July 1925 in the state of Tennessee. It was one of the most influential trials of the 20th century. The trial was orchestrated to challenge a law that prohibited the teaching of evolution in public schools. It was, however, on a larger scale, a conflict between fundamentalists and modernists over their interpretation of the Bible and Christianity. The trial was influential not because of its outcome, but because of the level of consciousness it raised on both sides of the fundamentalist-modernist controversy. Before delving into the trial itself, let's look at the background of the movements that spawned the opposing sides. The ascent of modernism in American society, often called the liberalizing of Christianity, is the reinterpretation of Christianity based on modern science and ethics. Fundamentalists argue that science is secondary to the biblical truths, while modernists argue that modern science has proven certain aspects of the scripture are either untrue or figurative. This therefore means to modernists that the Bible contains errors. Theologian and professor Gary Dorian of Union Theological Seminary calls modernism an alternative to both atheistic rationalism and to traditional theologies. The political cartoon pictured here by E.G. Pace depicts the modernist movement as a descent towards atheism. The symbolism of the steps may also mean a descent into damnation. Fundamentalist Christians saw a need for revival and a literal return to the basics of Christian belief. They believed that the scripture was to be the only guiding force in life, law, and government. They sought to shore up deficiencies in all to prevent modernism. Christian conservatives argued the importance of 5 core beliefs: the inspiration and inerrancy of Scripture, the virgin birth of Christ, Christ dying to atone for the sins of man, the resurrection of Christ, and the existence of biblical miracles. Anything that threatened these beliefs had to be countered. One such way of countering modern influence was the Butler Act of 1925 in Tennessee. The act prohibited the teaching of evolution or anything contrary to the biblical explanation of creation in Tennessee public schools. The American Civil Liberties Union found this to be constitutionally contradictory and sought to challenge the law. The teaching of evolution was not common, certainly not in Tennessee. So John T. Scopes, a math teacher working as a substitute, was asked to break the law, therefore giving the modernists a test case in U.S. court. Scopes obliged. It's important to note that modernism was not an atheist movement, as some fundamentalists have claimed, but rather a segment of Christianity that felt modern science, ethics, and knowledge had called the inerrancy of Scripture into question. The trial was prosecuted by famed fundamentalist politician, lawyer, and 3-time presidential candidate William Jennings Bryan. No figure in national public life was more outspoken for fundamentalism and against modernism than Bryan. Bryan hated everything modernists stood for, including modernist science and evolution. He once said, "The same science that manufactured poison gases to suffocate soldiers is preaching that man has a brute ancestry and eliminating the miraculous and supernatural from the Bible." He brought the same passion to the Dayton courthouse. Representing Scopes in the modernist movement was famed lawyer Clarence Darrow. Darrow himself was an agnostic, but he believed in the unconstitutional Butler Act. He felt strongly that the constitutional implications would not stay with regard to evolution and teaching. Legal historian Edward Larson says of Darrow's decision to take the case, he realized that there was no limit to the mischief that might be accomplished unless the country was aroused to the evil at hand. Most of the nation rallied around fundamentalist cause. Regardless of the skill and passion of both lawyers, the verdict was decided before the trial began. There was little chance that a jury, in light of public sentiment, would acquit, and that was perfect for the defense, because a conviction allowed the case to go before a higher court. Scopes was convicted. The victory was bittersweet for fundamentalism. It was a shared victory with the modernists. The Butler Act was enforced and later upheld. Evolution would not become a major part of public education for many decades. But in securing victory, Bryan took the stand and under questioning admitted that there are parts of the Bible, such as the actual length of days in which God created the earth, that may not be as literal as stated by the writers. For fundamentalism, this was merely a small chink in their biblical armor. But for modernists, it was huge. The acknowledgement by a prominent representative of fundamentalism that the Bible is not necessarily literal in every way was enough to carry on their argument and further modernism's own evolution. Biblical creation and evolution are still a part of contemporary agendas and controversy. In some of the nation's school systems, both interpretations can be taught, and in others, only evolution is taught, but with the caveat that the teacher must acknowledge evolution as only a theory. As the world ages, and the present becomes the past, and the future becomes the present, all the while there continues to be battles between fundamentalists and modernists. America is no longer the bastion of fundamentalism it once was. What has never changed, though, is the fundamentalist goal of making the nation one representing Christian values, and the modernists seeking to merge their interpretation of Christianity to the modern world. Thank you.